Yeah. The world is full of blessings. I have a home, a family, good fortune, good health. I have a job, a wonderful church family, and people whom I admire and respect to share my work. I have a place to go with my weight of disappointment and water to bathe my hurts. I have memories. I have a heart for breaking and a melting fire in my blood to fracture my sanity and cause me to lie on the floor and cry to see children hungry, children dealing drugs, and children watching violence on TV and in their homes. I have politicians in white shirts and striped ties to keep guns in the hands of boys in blue jeans and t-shirts. I have drug lords in Cadillacs to keep crack babies in slums. I have poetry and ocean to remind me of the goddess and the goddess to remind me of AIDS and prejudice. Well, I refuse to lie down and be good. I will not heal up neatly, sutures in a row, no scars. No, I will not. I will shout out that I am here and hurting, and will demand of life that it return my shout, decibel for decibel. I will speak of justice and kindness and beauty and truth, and I will try bravery, though I am a coward, and I will honor wisdom, though I am a fool. I will find other broken people with divinity shining through their pain to remind me that the human spirit is hard to defeat, that the world is young yet, and we are just an idea, that love is not forever, but a little love once in a while is worth the risk of keeping the door of our hearts wide open. And I look for goodness and know it when I see it, and I see it in you and your children and your dreams, and I can never be grateful enough. Thank you. I wish I wrote that. I didn't. Those are words from Elizabeth Tarbucks from Massachusetts. Good morning. My name is Sue Penny. I am your worship associate today. Welcome to this grateful Unitarian Universalist congregation of the South Fork. We come together in worship each week to honor what is of worth and to remember our commitments to each other and the world, including to the Native Americans who have cared for these lands before colonization and will continue to support their efforts for justice. And we won't forget the animals. And we have Mickey with us this morning as a reminder. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your name for the sacred, you are welcome to bring your full self here. The Reverend Kimberly provides about half of our services. This morning, this one is created by the worship team. And we are really thrilled to have Lora Tucker, our own Lora Tucker, with us this morning. And people that I have bios for, long bios here, but I do want to tell you something about these folks. So Vernice Walters, right here next to Lora, has served as a case manager for individuals living with mental illness, a house manager in a family shelter, and retired from the Kings County Hospital as a behavioral health associate. She's a respected community leader and the manager of Sankofa Green Thumb Community Garden, and is a recipient of awards from Habitat for Humanity and Green Thumb for her commitment to service and community empowerment. We also have Brenda Shanks with us this morning. Oh, yeah. She her work as a volunteer at the Gay Men's Health Crisis in 1985 is the beginning. She's worked in the field since 1995 as a care provider and educator. She was able to attend a caregivers group to cope with the care and loss of her sister to AIDS during the early years of the pandemic. She has been employed at Stony Brook University Hospital, working with HIV-positive children and educating people with HIV to eradicate the stigma that is still perpetuated. And then we have Lora. She's one of ours, and of Sag Harbor, is the poetry editor of African Voices Literary Magazine and the author of Rites of Passage. She facilitates poetry and writing therapy workshops for Stony Brook, Southampton University. Her thesis is on her father's patriotic contributions as a Tuskegee Airman. So we have a lot of wisdom here this morning, and thank you so much for being with us. Abby Fleming, as always, great. Thank you, Abby. And tech people, Donna Sutton is on camera, and Carl Wittenberg, thank you so much for being here to run our Zoom. It's a good time to put your phones on worship mode. And whether you are joining us in the meeting house or our friends on Zoom, we've got quite a number on Zoom this morning. Thank you all for being here. We invite you to settle into this sacred hour free from distractions. You will find, you will only find on the back of your order of service one announcement. I have a couple more. There is a board meeting at my house actually tomorrow night at 6:30. Let us know if you need a Zoom connection for that. Many are volunteering at Maureen's Haven later today at the Bridgehampton Child Care Center. And take note on your e-bulletin of Music is Medicine. It's an event by the Hamptons Community Outreach Group that does such amazing work in the area. And some of our musicians are taking part in it. It's next Saturday here from 2 to 5. And meditation, as always, is Wednesday night with the wonderful Michelle Dobbs. Do we have any visitors this morning, no pressure, that might like to introduce themselves? Oh, we have we use the microphone so they can hear you on Zoom.
Greetings. My name is Chip Wilford, and I'm a guest of Lora Tucker. She's my sister in Christ, as well as my sister in life that I adopted. I feel the love here in this space as I poured out in this beautiful community and in this beautiful space, and I feel welcome, and I'm just so happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Sorry you couldn't all hear that, but thank you for being here with us, friend of Laura's. Anyone else who would like to? Okay. So let's just take a quick moment to say hi to someone you haven't said hi to yet this morning.
That's why you like he was you more.
Please join together in reading the words in your order of service as I light the chalice, symbol of our liberal religion. We light this chalice to celebrate the love within us. Actually, while I light this, please stand as you are willing and able for our first hymn, number 347, Gather the Spirit. We're just debating the order of our speakers. I believe it's Brenda now.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Gotta take a deep breath. My name is Brenda Shanks. First of all, thank you for inviting me to speak here today. This is fantastic. I'm a little bit off because I've had a little bit of emergency, but we're well. So let me start by saying I started working in the HIV services back in 1985 when I heard of a little place called Gay Men's Health Crisis. I was currently in school to become a nurse because my mother was a nurse and my sister was a nurse. So they were like, you're going to be a nurse. But once I got in there and I started to see the kind of help that was needed, I knew that I didn't want to be in the back end, like at the end part. There was so much work that needed to be done. We didn't know what we were doing. The doctors didn't know what was going on, but I knew that I needed to be there. So I decided that I was going to leave school. My parents wanted to kill me, but that's the way it was. And I just volunteered. And I'm so glad I did, because I met so many wonderful friends. But I've got to really understand what was happening. No one really knew. Like, we were just, information was just so all over the place. But the one thing I learned is how people came together to help one another. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be in that helping environment. I did that for maybe 2 years, and then I found my way to school at Stony Brook. Finally, my parents were like, yay! And once again, I went to school to become a nurse, and I decided then, at the time, Stony Brook had wards. They had AIDS wards when I first started there. And I didn't want to be the nurse at the other end. I wanted to be the person to come in for those families that didn't have families, that didn't have anyone, who needed a hug, who needed someone to sit there and talk to. Many years ago, a lot of people passed without anyone there, without love and understanding. Hence to today, we did clinical trials, right, to make sure that the medications that we have now work. And thank goodness they do. They do work, we know that. So I started my career off as a social worker, worked at Stony Brook, and then just did education, volunteered to do testing in the community because I thought it was important. People weren't just gonna come in and say, hey, I was doing these things and we were all hanging out together. So we went out and talked to people, and in the privacy we could test people and let them understand what was going on. Very important that people are educated on how this happens, and love and understanding. Even though we all have we grew up different backgrounds and but love never changes. The word love always stays the same. And it applies to everything that you do, as long as you feel it in your heart. So I've been doing this for a very long time. I met Laura. And I too do mindfulness for Stony Brook. And sometimes we need different tools, right? Different things to get us to forget about what's going on and put our minds in different places and connect with other people who are also going through the same thing. What I can say is what I've learned in all these years, it's how people connect to help each other to get through the next. In 1985, I found out that my sister was HIV positive. And of course, my whole family, we all learned everything there was, because there was a time they were like, don't touch them, don't hug them, don't do this, don't eat out of the same, it was just so crazy. And my mother and my father decided that we as a family were gonna throw that out the window, and we were going to approach it with love. And that's how the support groups that I've done and everything, it's just never, I don't like things that are so structured. I want you to come in and feel like we're sitting together in someone's living room, having tea and talking. Because that's the only way, when you come in with the structured, people feel off and they feel like they can't share, and they don't want to share because they don't know what to tell you. Like I said, when you start with love, that's where you start with love. Helped her through difficult times. She passed many, many years ago, in 1994. But we continue to do this work. I'm also a researcher for clinical trials at Stony Brook. So I also work with the Moderna and Pfizer that we did for the children, and we're now getting into this, hopefully getting into this phase of, if everything goes well, we're looking into a vaccine for HIV. And that is a huge, huge, like when I tell you, it's huge. We waited so long, but there's still research to be done, but that's where we're heading. And we're hoping that it's going to be soon, right? Thank you.
Your bio did not do you justice. Thank. I know. Thank you, Brenda. So we will continue the change that Reverend Kimberly is introducing with our offertory time. The baskets are in the back for when you leave today. Feel free to put in the Helping Hand Fund, which supports individuals and groups outside of our walls, and the other basket, which is for our work within the walls. I like to use our offering time to thank people who have been so busy behind the scenes. And I first want to point out Ken Ettlinger, who led a wonderful trail mixer a week ago Saturday at Orient State Park. Do you remember the weather last Saturday morning? It was rainy and only stopped when we hit the life-size osprey nest, which was quite fun. And then we went to Peconic Landing, and Ken entertained us there, and we worked on our mixer part of the trail mixer. So thank you very much, Ken. Yes, and John Andrews, we could probably thank every day of the week. I'm hoping John's on Zoom. He just continues to lead us in many ways, and he has headed up the finance meetings that have ended in a consensus about what to do, and no small task he had. So thank you to John. And you may light a candle while Abby offers our offertory music. And right after this, we will have the sharing if you want to say it out loud. So here we go. We set aside this time in our service to build community by sharing with each other our joys, our sorrows, our hopes, and our concerns. This is a time of prayer and meditation. So as we enter this time, I will be sharing a reading by Mariel Cleary. It has a few parts, so there'll be breaks in between. And when we're done, I will chime the gong. And we'll then sing hymn number 6. Just as long as I have breath from your seat, you can stay seated, stay calm. So get comfortable in your chair. You might want to close your eyes or look down. Couple deep breaths. Knowing that we do not always live up to our best expectations of ourselves, let us in quietness seek the good within, which some call the inner light, and some a spark of the divine. Knowing that we live in a society that falls far short of the ideal, let us in quietness resolve to do one thing this week to aid those suffering from want and injustice. Knowing that the earth is our home and that humankind is making it a dirty and even poisonous home, let us in quietness consider how we might be part of making it more healthful for all living things. Knowing that each of us has some sorrow or worry hidden within, let us consider in quietness how we may reach out to one another with our smiles, our hand clasps, and our encouraging words. Number 6, from your seat. Still with no Vernice.
Good morning. Lora insisted that I be second. I don't know why, but I guess it's because I'm long-winded. So, get to the mic, you can hear me? Oops. I've been told by my grandchildren I talk too loud. But, so settle in, because I'm kind of impulsive when I come to speak, when I speak, okay? But I did summarize, because I think I have 10 minutes. How much time I have, Sue? I have 10 minutes. Okay, I'm going to keep my eye on that clock. But I will like to finish. But I have to say this. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Sue, for the meditation. And thank you for this last hymn. It's absolutely beautiful, and it speaks to my heart. That's my, what do you say? That's what I do, truth and love. And I am pierced through with disappointment. And the only way to handle it, I find, is to love. It's just as simple as that. Takes it all away. So I'm put on my glasses because I have more years behind me than I have ahead of me, and my eyes have gotten bad, worse than yesterday. But so I summarized my experiences with HIV and AIDS. And just as Brenda was speaking, I was reminded, well, I summarized it, and then I put it on ChatGPT. And I wrote it, and they summarized it for me so that I could get it down pat. Because I had a 7-minute speech at Habitat for Humanity, and I had to narrow it down to 2 minutes, I had, Laura, and that was work. So I knew I had to do the same thing here. But when Brenda was speaking, I was reminded that something that's not in my bio is that I'm also a cosmetologist, and I got my license at 17. I had my own beauty salon, and I worked in all aspects of hair care field, teaching, proctoring, platform work, product making. And in '79, one of my students recommended me to the Broadway play Zoot Suits. And I did the hair for the Broadway play Zoot Suits. And that was my introduction to HIV. That's when it hit. It's Studio 54. And I was not on the disco scene, but that's when the buzz was about people having HIV, and they thought it was only a disease of heterosexuals. So it was that stigma. And so I experienced that, and I experienced the fear and the shame and the discrimination of people just talking about shying away and everything from each other. So that was just reminded about that, and that was in '79. And then I have some pointers, like in the '80s, it was about silence and fear. No one can know. A lot of people died because no one understood why, and they died alone. And in the '90s, it was about activism and treatment and the fight for dignity. And you got groups like ACT UP and women groups and church leaders and community healers. And people demanded dignity, and they demanded treatment, and they demanded attention. And the human side of it, and which is still today, is trauma and stigma that we talked about. The silence, the person that spoke about. People, it takes time to understand the trauma and from loss and guilt from being a survivor. And I'm grateful that today we have progress mixed with a little reality, and the biggest message is for love and education and to save lives. And that will segue into the bridge of my story, which I am going to literally read. Okay? So I just want you to know that it's not on me. So again, my name is Vernice, and I stand before you as a woman shaped by life's storms and softened by its miracles. And I come today not with statistics, but with the living story of the people who braided themselves into my heart and taught me what courage truly looks like. And my experiences with HIV and AIDS began long before I even knew how deeply it would carve into my life. My older brother, Cornell, died from AIDS in 1988. And losing him left an imprint, a quiet ache, and a vow in my spirit to live with compassion for those who bear burdens unseen. And years later, when I had just a handful of clean and sober days, I believe it was 9 days sober and clean, after 29 years of active addiction, God placed another teacher in my path. And her name was Marietta, and I met her in a meeting. And for 5 years, she walked beside me, weak in body, some days, but strong in gratitude, every single day. She taught me how to pray without ceasing, how to endure without bitterness, how to praise God with a trembling voice, if that's the only voice you have. There's still a prayer she shared with me that I whisper to myself. Her spirit, it stays with me. And then in 2000, I met a woman who would become my sister friend, my mirror, my keeper. That woman is Lora. We met at a women's meeting. She stood up and shared from a place so raw and so tender. Still takes my breath away. That the whole room held its breath. She spoke about the painful reaction she received when she disclosed her HIV to her parents. And in that moment, the truth of her voice touched the truth in mine. Something in me said, that one, stand beside her. And from that day, we have been connected. I mean, literally from that day. Very, very closely. We have shared homes. We lived together, God knows, while she was going to school for her master's, and we couldn't go out to play for 2 years. I literally sat in the front of her graduation, and when she walked across there, I was like, can we go out now? You know, she's so devoted. And we shared homes, we shared children. She helped me raise my children. My daughter is now 40. When I met her, she was a teenager. We shared workplaces, literally. We shared vacations. We share heartbreak. We share laughter. And the kind of conversations that peel your soul open. Lora and I live by a core principle of friendship. I call it our sacred 5. Respect, honesty, transparency, truth, and reliability. And Lora is what I call a promise keeper. It's not perfect, not without wounds, but faithful, steadfast, and real. I have firsthand challenges she has been confronted with. I have seen them she has been confronted with. My grandchildren love her. She's Auntie Lora. My oldest granddaughter, who is now 26, right? Lora literally said she saved her life. I was on the phone with Lora one day, and I had talked to her the day before, and she didn't feel good. And I was in the car with my granddaughter, and I called Lora to see how she was feeling. And as Lora, she was on speaker, and my granddaughter says, "No, Ema, she doesn't sound right. We got to go get her. We got to go get her." She was, wow, yeah, she was little. Well, yeah, she was little. Yeah, that's some. I lose time track with her. Our life is so enmeshed that time doesn't count, you know. But we went and got Lora and literally had to wheel her into the hospital and saved her life. The doctor said that had 24 hours later, she would have been dead. And it was her voice. My granddaughter was like, "That's not Auntie Lora," you know, because Lyric used to play in Laura's pocketbook when we would get in the car, and we would say, "What are you doing back there?" And she'd be digging in Laura's pocketbook, and we'd turn around, she'd have lipstick on, and she would, "Well, what are you doing?" You know, but, so, you know, it's been, you know, I know that there's Lora, I've been with her through challenges of discrimination, not only because of HIV, because of the wonderful person that she is, the judgment, the misunderstanding, and the assumptions that people carry about HIV, even without compassion, you know. And I know these things, not because I read them in a book, but because we talk and we share. We tell each other about the truth that most people keep locked behind their ribs. And we are, in every sense of the word, besties. And I am blessed, truly blessed, to walk this journey of life beside a woman as sincere and courageous as Lora. So to Lora, to Carnell, to Marietta, and to every person who has lived this journey, you have been my teachers. You have been my reminders that love is greater than fear, and truth is greater than stigma. You have shown me HIV does not define a life. Okay, that was 3. But the way that we love each other, it does. And today I honor them. And I honor you. I honor you all, those fighting, those supporting, those surviving. May we continue to build a world where passion is the loudest voice in the room. And I have a little prayer. And I don't know if this is appropriate, but I'm going to say it. Mother, you know me so already, huh? Mother, Father God, we come to you just as we are, willing, open, and grateful. Strengthen our hearts today. Help us to walk in honesty, humility, and hope. Let your light dissolve every fear, your love silence every whisper of shame, and your peace steady every trembling place within us. Teach us to take life one day at a time, one truth at a time, one act of courage at a time. Bless those living with HIV, those loving them, and those learning from them. Surround us with your grace, guide us with your wisdom, and keep us in the circle of your everlasting care. Amen. Thank you all.
Woo. She's probably the only one that can make me, let's not cry. On that day, doubts surrounded me, like trees touching each other's fingers, the foreboding forest grasping, limb to limb, arching over my head. Yet I kept moving forward, foot in front of foot, beyond the morass that enveloped my soles, looking for a clearing through the gaps between the branches, the openings beyond the darkness. Though vines of cynicism slapped, grabbed, tugged me down, I kept lifting myself up like a fawn's first footing, fighting for solid ground. I kept moving forward, not knowing where I was, though darkness was in my line of vision. I sliced through the fear, the fog. I kept moving forward, kept looking up, beyond the crimson chaos, the gray shades of doubt, allowing light years of hope to do what it was best. I kept moving forward, letting my faith do the rest. Nothing was so scary than what was ahead. Nothing was so powerful than lifting my head, catching that glimmer of hope on that day. I kept moving forward, somehow, some way. This is the first poem I ever wrote about my illness. And to tell you the truth, it's the only poem I've written about my illness. This is the first time I've shared it out loud. On August 27th, 1997, I became a part of a group of people who were expected to die quickly. I was marginalized, not because of the color of my skin or my gender, but for catching a disease, a dis-ease. But I need you to know, it's a wonderful life, even with HIV. And how wonderful it is after the deaths, the fears, the stigmas, the prayers, there is a day to remember what was and what life is and can be. That is what World AIDS Day is, a day that makes you not take your life for granted, to educate, to remember the ones who didn't make it, but to hold up the survivors who are not only surviving but thriving. I invite you, come celebrate with us. Are you a Turner classic movie viewer? Or do you just enjoy a classic holiday Christmas movie, from November 30th to January 6th? Well, it's supposed to conjure these feelings of family and comfort and joy and hugging and Santa and holly jolly and family, all that warm and fuzzy stuff. Did you know there were 2 movies that came out during the Christmas holidays that weren't so warm and fuzzy? That were the quintessential in-your-face movies for their time? One came out on December 20th, 1946. The other, December 22nd, 1993. Both altered the practice of thinking of life as a pink cloud during the holidays. They made people think in a challenging perspective, the devastation of loss, and not to take life for granted. The 2 movies, It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart, and Philadelphia with Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington. Remember James Stewart on that bridge, despondent and shivering on the verge of giving up? In August of 1997, I was Jimmy Stewart. Philadelphia, about the early cruelties of the AIDS epidemic, how social and economic status didn't exempt one from this disease, and how one had to look for those helpers in the places where one would never consider. In 2017, I had to look again for those helpers when I relocated to Sag Harbor. Consider this, if I had not found those helpers, if I had lost hope, if I had died when the doctors diagnosed me and told me I had AIDS and 6 months to live, I would have never known Sue Penny. I met her July of 1997, 2 weeks before I took the AIDS test. I was pre-diagnosed, and only person. Now, I met her at Unilead, so I was considered part of the UU's leadership and the like. Whew. If I had died, I would have never met Vernice. I met her in 2000 in the rooms, doing timeline and sharing the time we were friends. We would have never known each other. And I needed Vernice. I needed a sister. I needed someone to say, "You're all right, shut up." I would have never met Brenda, who is caregiver extraordinaire, who is a light, and that was in 2018. And what I did after 1997, degrees after diagnosis. I got my MSW, my LMSW, and now I'm getting my MFA. I was advocating for racial justice and then included HIV survivors. I was able to add to my anti-racism activism because of my status. I wrote for Pause magazine. I'm a poetry therapist for Southampton Hospital. I'm an essayist for the East Hampton Star. I became a member of Yo-Yo. I've been speaking. I'm even an angry vagina. And that's the vagina monologues, okay. And I was a caregiver for my mother. I was able to see my mother live 2 weeks before she turned 99. And now I am helping a Latino family who is sharing my house, who are refugees from Honduras. If I didn't have the heart, if I didn't have the people in my life, if I didn't have the organizations, the agencies that help me survive now and thrive, the only person I would know in this room before I died would be Sue Penny, because I met her before I knew I had AIDS. So come celebrate with me. Come celebrate my life and those others' lives. And I'm going to read you a poem that Lucille Clifton wrote that says, "Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model, born in both non-white and woman. What did I see to be except myself? I made it up here on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight, the other hand. Come celebrate with me that everyday thing that has tried to kill me and has failed."
And now, please stand as you are willing and able to sing our closing hymn. Guess what it is? Lean on Me, number 1021. your needs, that you won't let you lean on me. When you're not strong, I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. Be long, I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry on, right up the road, I'll share your load. If you just call me, when you're not strong, I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. It won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Lonely brother, when you need a hand, we all need somebody to lean on. I just might have that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Ooh. Please stay standing. And I know there's stuff going around, but if you're comfortable touching the person next to you, feel free. Maybe your elbows or your hands, whatever feels comfortable. And now let us go forth with the faith that life is worth living, that defeat and adversity can be transformed into victory and hope, that love is eternal, and that life is stronger than death. And may that faith inspire us to live our lives with dignity, love, and courage in the days and weeks ahead. You may be seated, and we hope you'll join us after the service in the gathering room, and Abby will treat us with Bach.